From the creators who brought you RuPaul's Drag Race and $1 Million Listing, this is World of Wonder's Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
Hello everyone and welcome to this week's edition of the Wow Report, where we count down the top 10 topics of the week that made us go wow. I'm Fenton Bailey, co-founder of World of Wonder, joined by my teammates, my inspirations, my right-hand people, Tom Campbell, our Chief Creative Officer.
Hello, hello.
And a big welcome back to James St. James. You've been out for a couple of weeks. We're so glad you're back with us.
I'm so glad to be back. It's so nice to see you both.
Let's just jump into the countdown. Number 10.
Number 10.
You guys, I warned you about this, and I went and I did it, and I had the time of my life. I saw ABBA Voyager.
Oh, I am so excited about this. I am so excited. Please, yes.
In London, as you know, I'm over here in the UK. We're shooting a little something, but we have weekends off. We've been here for many years. Weekends off, and you know, COVID. You can roam the world again. So Michelle Visage and her dear friend Anna arranged for VIP tickets to ABBA Voyager, which is a hologram concert of ABBA as they appeared in the late 70s. Oh. And the entire theater has been built and designed. It's kind of where the Olympics took place. It's that East London area, Fenton, where we were, where the Olympic Stadium
right?
was.
The O2.
Yes. No. It's down in East London near where we shot the first season of Drag Race.
I know where you mean.
I was hoping you could give me a neighborhood. I have no idea. So we arrive. We drove up. We are brought to this holding room, you know, on a matinee. So they're doing two shows in the same day. Okay, they're computers. But we were there. They had all these lines of T-shirts and hoodies and ABBAs. It is a cult there. Everyone who works there is so happy to be there. And they like tell you what's going to happen without telling you and teasing you. They said you can take one of the merch. As Americans, we just cleared the whole table and put it into our bags. And then you watch them. And you can't take any pictures, so it's all in your imagination, and it's relentlessly.
Wait a minute. Is that because if you take a picture of a hologram, it doesn't come out? Is it technical, or they just don't want you to ruin it?
They don't want you to.
Okay,
I think you could, but the ABBA, they rise from the floor, and people go insane. There's a huge. The floor is all people dancing. And then there's seats where we were in all the way up. And there are so many white people waving their hands above their heads the entire, like I've never seen more white hands. And
it's better than more white hands than a Neil Diamond concert.
Exactly. And at first I felt like there's nobody up there. We're looking at computer generated things. The music's great. They have a live band, you know, playing the instrumentation. They do it, but it wins you over. And then the next thing you know, there's huge screens and panels that are showing you exactly what they're doing on the stage. But it's like if there was a camera this close to my face and you could see it up behind me, which you can't really do in real life because you see the camera. And they did all the hits. There were some animated bits there. It's relentless. The ABBA music is so good. Their sound is their voices are so beautiful. They talk to us, which is a little bit creepy. But the fact that they're not dead makes the whole thing a little bit more palatable. Anyway, questions. Okay. Questions from the audience.
What was the VIP experience like? Like, what did you get that other people didn't get?
We were just in this room. We had free beverages plus a we got a hold on, like this reusable ABBA Voyage bottle. You know, you can't you don't have one of those.
So wait, you got a water bottle and you could go to the bathroom.
And we got hoodies and T-shirts, and they were all so cute. We were horrible. We couldn't stop.
I have a question. How did it win you over? Because I'm with you. Like, we know it's a hologram. And there must be some sort of uncanny valley thing of like, oh, this isn't quite real. Like those rides now that are so popular at theme parks where you don't actually go anywhere. It's all screen projections.
Yes.
And you just feel slightly sick. So how did this win you over?
Part of it's the ABBA. We were talking afterwards, like what other band could get away with this? And there's something about ABBA who are so popular all over the world, but especially in England. and you don't know much about them. You know, they don't talk that much. So just them as an image is quite powerful. But once they get away from, you don't spend all your time looking at them on stage. You see them on the screen. They look a little bit Shrekky, just a tiny, tiny bit Shrekky. But their music is there. It's emotional that way. They put on a good visual show. It's kind of like a sing-along at the Hollywood Bowl to, like, you know, Sound of Music meets a hologram show meets video footage. They also showed, like, at one point they show their Eurovision performance, you know, as clips. So it's like seeing them in concert if they had been de-aged as Tom Hanks and what's her face are going to be in the new Robert Zemeckis movie.
So what you're saying is it's a better experience than the hologram theater next to World of Wonder showing Billie Holiday was.
But see, I think seeing dead people's creepy. But I see thinking ABBA and being able to, the very end, this is I'm going to spoil if you care. At the very end, they come out, the ABBA, you know, holograms come out and bow at the end of the thing. It's fabulous. Oh, the other thing is the fabric of their clothes, the sequins, the flow, the best part of the CGI. They have fabric down. But then at the very, very end, images of ABBA today come out. So it's like you've seen them young the whole time, and then they come out and they wave one more time after you've heard The Winner Takes It All, and you weep and you weep and you stuff more ABBA t-shirts into your jacket and you weep.
We're supposed to move on, but I just have a question because to me, I am slightly underwhelmed. And if you are not an ABBA super fan, are you going to have the same experience as Tom Campbell?
I don't think I'm a super fan. I think I'm a fan because you should be.
Oh, stop it. Stop it.
If you didn't have the VIP experience, would you be slightly underwhelmed?
The VIP experience was lovely, but yes,
water bottle. Would you walk away as impressed?
I get VIP experiences so little. I just am very excited about anything I get. I think it is fun. If you're in London, it's a unique thing. There's nothing like it. And it's, like I said, it's a combination of like a fan concert, a convention, a sing-along. It's like, and the music is really compelling, I think, and to hear it in its totality is kind of amazing.
Right. Well, that's ABBA Voyage. Tickets at the ABBA Arena in London available. They start at £21. You can get a dance booth for £143. And all right.
Go and wave your white hands.
Righty. Let's move on to number 9, James.
Number 9.
Marcel the Shell with Shoes On. I watched it on the plane. It's a movie that's out. It's gotten all sorts of Academy Award nominations. Dear God in heaven, I can't believe it took me this long to jump on the Marcel the Shell with Shoes On it bandwagon. It's a live action stop movie, docu-ish, documentary setup type thing, where Dean Fletcher Camp moves to an Airbnb where he discovers a 1-inch talking shell, Marcel, living with his grandmother and his pet ball of lint. Okay. And we follow Marcel around as he goes about his typical day and talks about his life and how he is looking for his family who are missing. And I laughed out loud on the plane. I belly laughed. I cried on the plane, sobbing, real tears. Jenny Slate deserves an Oscar. I wish they had Oscars for voiceover and, for an animation. She's so good. Isabella Rossellini is the mother. Leslie Stahl comes on 60 Minutes. They worship Leslie Stahl. They think the grandmother Shell and Marcel are obsessed with Leslie Stahl. She comes on. I'm obsessed with Leslie Stahl. The whole thing is so charming and poignant and powerful. It's this meditation on family and life. And has anyone seen it? Does anyone know what I'm talking about? Do you know anything about it?
I've not seen it, James, but I can tell you that Jenny Slate, she has an Oscar nomination because she's the
producer and for animation. But I wish her voice.
She's producer and co-creator, and it's nominated for the best feature film of 2023.
It is best feature film and best animated.
I mean, best animated. I'm sorry, right?
Oh. But
Yeah.
her voiceover work is absolutely amazing, and I think both Nolan and Elliot would really get a kick out of it. I think it really is a family movie that you can watch together and really bond over with.
I saw the
Like,
trailer, which intrigued me, but you're reminding me, so thank you. And I might be hallucinating this, but I feel like there was maybe a 60-minute piece where Leslie Stahl
There,
talked
well,
about
it
it.
was the whole thing is about, you know, they worship Leslie Stahl. She comes on, she's intrigued by the idea of this talking shell. They do it in a 60-minute piece to help find the family, and then they air the 60-minute piece on the documentary as well. And Leslie Stahl is just brilliant.
Who plays the Lint? I'm just curious.
I don't know. I mean, there's in the end when they find the family, there's a lot of voiceover that people voices that you recognize and everything. Blake, have you seen this?
I haven't seen it, but I was just looking at did you Justin in the film? Do you know who that was?
No, who?
Well, it was played by Nathan Fielder, which I've kind of just discovered. Me and my roommate have been watching Nathan For You on the comedy channel.
Oh, sure, yeah.
It is so hilarious and just stupid, dumb, but smart too. Like,
Right.
hilarious. And
Yep.
then he had a newer show,
That was that crazy show where people come in and they reenact. James, you saw it. People come
Rehearsal or something.
The rehearsal.
Oh, right. Yes.
Yeah, so I love him.
Well, listen, I want all of you to watch it before the Academy Awards because it is so brilliant. And so, like I said, literally just sobbing, happy sobbing on the plane, just and just like everyone turning and watching me for 5 rows.
Now, is it up for this year or
It
For this
is.
year, yeah, because of the pandemic and everything, it was made in 2021, but it took
Best
Okay.
animated feature at the Oscars.
All right.
And the Oscars, by the way, are airing on Sunday, March the 12th at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5
Wow,
p.m.
that's a fast turnaround, isn't it? From
Right.
nominations to coming out, yeah.
Yeah. And perfect segue for my number 8.
Number 8.
Oscar Wars is the title of a new book coming from Michael Schulman. Now, it's kind of like
Oh,
a
I
history
love
of the
Michael
Oscars.
Schulman, yes.
Right? It's coming out in about a week. But the reason I even know that the book exists or is coming out is because fascinating article in the New Yorker about Robert Opel. And this, of course, was the man who 49 years ago on the Oscars, 49 years ago, streaked across the screen
Yes,
as
of course.
David Niven was introducing Elizabeth Taylor. And I guess
And what was the famous line that he said when he
I'm
stood-
going to read you the whole thing. He said, "Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was almost bound to happen." But isn't it fascinating to think that probably the only laugh that man will ever get in his life is by stripping off and showing his shortcomings?
Well, now wait a minute. As funny as that is, I've honestly in the past few years come to believe that the whole thing was staged.
Well,
and that they hired a streaker, and that they had written the line before they even found the streaker.
I understand that conspiracy theory because it is a perfectly written line, and it's
Yes.
not. I mean, I know that I am certainly no good at spontaneous stuff, but like that is an elaborate moment of spontaneity that is like
Yes.
articulate. And he was right in the sense that it was bound to happen because streaking was the fad of the moment. I mean,
Here
now
comes the streak. Ethel, put your clothes back on.
Look at him. Look at him.
But then this story in the New Yorker is all about Robert Opel, who was a fascinating guy. Needless to say, after the streaking, Alan Carr hired him to host or appear at a party he was throwing for Rudolf Nureyev, and he appeared just wearing a tie around his neck and a collar. But he had trained in linguistics, joined the Peace Corps, and was going to go off to Thailand to teach English. And the Peace Corps said, "Oh, no, we're not going to send you because you don't get on well with others." And of course, in those days, the whole idea was you're gay. So there was a whole sort of pre-coming out
You don't get
era.
along with others as a euphemism for you're gay. Is that what you're saying?
I'm afraid, yeah. I
No,
mean, you remember, James, you remember.
The 70s? How dare you? I was 4.
And he, as an encore, he streaked at the City Hall in San Francisco to protest a ban on nudity. He was sent to prison for 4 months. He then founded the Nude Lib Party and made a bid for president. sort of around the same time Linda Lovelace was making her bid for president. And he said the whole thing, he said, undress goes far beyond simply urging one to remove the clothes. It's a visual statement of innocence, an external sign of one's intent to exorcise hypocrisy, and very important in the journey of becoming totally self-actualized. So, yeah, the thing going on.
Interesting. He's still around. He's
not, because what happened was he then moved to San Francisco. He opened a gallery called Faye Way Studios, and he was definitely a pioneer in exhibiting gay work. And his first show, in fact, included Robert Mapplethorpe, who wasn't famous at that time.
Whatever happened to Faye Way?
He became friends with Harvey Milk. And if you remember, that's what's so fascinating about this article, because Anita Bryant, came in Florida, the orange juice woman campaigning against the gays. She inspired a big anti-gay backlash, which was sort of connected to the assassination of Harvey Milk, which happened just a few weeks after the Jonestown massacre in Guyana.
I don't remember that. I don't remember that being part of the same timeline. Yeah.
It's all part of the same thing. And
you were 4.
We know James was reading the New Yorker at 4. He was very
he was writing for the New Yorker at 4.
And so Robert was very, very vehement against Dan White, who was the guy who shot Harvey Milk and used the Twinkie defense. And Robert Opel staged a sort of mock execution of Dan White. And this arguably perhaps inspired someone who then murdered him in his gallery just a few weeks later. So Robert Opel is no longer with us, but led an extraordinary life. And this is just a fascinating story.
Well, I think there's more than an article there. I think there's a documentary that should be made.
It's a 6-part Netflix series without question.
Oh, okay.
I think it's a movie starring Channing Tatum as the streaker. The my one little footnote, I believe when Elizabeth Taylor came on stage, I believe her line was, "Well, that's a tough act to follow."
That's really good. All right, so the Oscars will be shown March 12th, and you never know when there's going to be some kind of amazing, memeable, memorable moment, and that was one of them. Let's take a break. Drag Race Belgique premieres February 16th on Wow Presents Plus worldwide, excluding Belgium. WowPresentsPlus.com. So head on over there to meet the queens. Go to the Wow Report to meet the queens. Blake, do you have a question?
Sure. This is our first show of February. February is the only month of the year that can go without a full moon. But when a full moon does occur in February, what is it called?
All right. We'll have the answer right after the break here on the Wow Report on Radio Andy.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
Welcome back to the Wow Report. I'm Fenton here with Tom and James and Blake. We're counting down the top 10 things that made us go wow. Blake, you had a question.
I did. February, which we've just entered, is the only month of the year that can go without a full moon. But when a full moon does occur in February, what is it called?
I'm going to have to say a blue moon, which inspires the phrase, it happened once in a blue moon.
Good guess.
I'm going to say lover's moon because it's Valentine's.
Oh.
Month of Valentine's.
I don't know.
It's called a snow moon.
What?
Yeah.
I've never heard of a snow moon before.
Liar!
I guess because it's in winter still.
Snow moon, I saw you standing there.
Counting down, we've reached number 7. Tom.
Number 7.
Okay, picture this. It's Monday morning. I'm on different time zone than you guys are. Linda Ronstadt is trending on Twitter. I panicked.
You must have woken up and just had a hard on. You must have just been out of your mind.
Linda might have passed. In fact, it's not what happened. A song of hers was featured in an episode of the hugely popular, who knew, HBO series, The Last of Us. And it went viral. Not only, and there's some statistic that between 11 p.m. and 12 midnight on Sunday East Coast time, long time by Linda Ross, a song she recorded in 1970. The streaming went up 4,900%.
Which, how does that even 100? How does that even work? I never understand these things.
I'm just giving. I don't figure out math. I just quote it. I use it into my benefit, like all numbers. Are you guys familiar with the TV series The Last of Us?
I am, yes.
And I had not heard of it. It's based on a video game. It's everything at its face. It's everything I won't watch on television. Zombies, video game, lots of random murder that's excused because they're zombies. But there was, and some of my office told me, but there was a scene, and everyone's talking about this, but this was sort of a capsule episode. The major story is there's this hero guy who goes through a lot. It's 2003. America's had this incredible virus that's turned people essentially into zombies, and he ends up championing this 14-year-old girl who's been bitten by the zombies but hasn't converted, which means she might be the cure, and they're traveling across the country. That's the epic story. And they were on this episode. It was an hour and 22-minute episode, like a little feature film. And those two characters, the guy and the girl, are going through 2023 decimated America, looking for supplies and things. They're in a neighborhood he used to be in. He wants to go see his friend, I think Frank or something. And they go to that house and they flash back 20 years to when the people were abducted, when just innocent people were abducted by the government. They were killed because then they wouldn't get affected. And this one guy, played by, what's his name?
Murray Bartlett.
No, not Murray Bartlett. Who's McCall?
Nick Offerman.
Nick Offerman, yes. From Parks and Recreation, who was married to Megan Mullally.
Yes,
in real life.
He plays the survivalist, this bearded survivalist who stays hidden in his house in 2 sub-basements when the government, takes everybody off and kills them. And he builds basically a wall and traps and intricate, and living in his old mother's beautiful house, eating food. He has food. He's figured out how to live on his own and survive. You see zombies coming through his traps and being set on fire, and he just sits there and watches on closed circuit TV. Well, one day, this is not the important part. One day, what's the other guy's name?
Murray Bartlett from White Lotus.
Murray Bartlett, the most handsome Murray Bartlett, falls into one of his traps. He goes out to finish him, finds out that he's not infected, and then they talk, and he goes, I'm going to Boston. If you just let me, take a shower, have a bite to eat, and I'll move on. And he's reluctantly he does. Long story short, they're both gay. And they fall for each other. So you have this survivalist who has built a wall around his world to keep people out. And one still finds him and comes to him. And it's about their relationship, sort of a middle-aged gay relationship over 20 years. And that's where I'll let it unfold. But it's beautiful. They bond over the song Long, Long Time. So when it plays in the final frames,
Linda Ronstadt song, yes. They both have a love of Linda Ronstadt. So it's basically if Tom falls in love with a survival with a Y2 prepper, and they both, it's the Tom story. It's Tom's fantasy, basically. He's a white-haired, white-bearded old queen who has built walls around him his entire life and finally let someone in, bonding over their love of Linda Ronstadt, basically.
I hadn't put those two things together. Thank you so much.
Yes, it is the Tom.
I was about to say there's hope for me. I was like, the wall.
Well, you are the Murray Bartlett character, Fenton, basically, is what we're. If Tom and Fenton were to fall in love, let go of all of their baggage.
You had Tom until this point, and Tom is that. No.
I'm open for any. Now that I've seen this, I'm open to love. I will just say what makes it so remarkable. 2 things, and quickly, I know we have to wrap, is you just realize what a dearth of romantic stories that exist for 2 middle-aged gay guys. And so it's such a rarity to see it. And in this context where those characters, I don't think will ever return. It was just about this little moment, which is why I love series. I love streaming. I love taking random turns. This is why limited series are more exciting than movies to me. And the crazy thing is, and I think love has won, but a lot of people were afraid about the controversy that this was these were very minor characters in the game, and then making them gay.
Let me address that very quickly, because in the game, what happens is you very quickly pass this house and you see two old men living together, and it never says, are these two characters gay? You just, it's something that happens. It's a blip in the video game, and they chose to make this into a standoff one alone episode in which we explore their thing. And the straight people watching the show, the homophobes, are going banana. How dare you? You've ruined the show. You made me spend an hour and a half watching two queens kiss each other. Disgusting. I do want to say that Nick Offerman is completely going to get his Emmy Award. I mean, it's absolutely brilliant. It is, like you said, it is this gentle moment in this very violent show where they just take you away and you spend an hour and a half watching two old men grow old with each other. It is, you will cry. It is one of the most beautiful moments on television. Fenton is dying to say something. Go.
I just want to ask a question. So is that the end of The Last of Us? Is it done, or are there more?
No. This is episode 3. We are only 3 episodes into this series.
Because Nolan and I watched the first episode, which was like the feature-length episode, and Nolan was like, I don't know if I can watch this. It's like it's very dark, it's very HBO, it's very violent. And so
I don't know if I'm going to I don't know if I'm going to continue that first episode when you fall in love with that girl so much, and then spoiler alert, she dies at the end, and you think, well, I don't want to go on without this girl. It is hard.
But Nick Offerman, I'm sorry, I kept saying his name wrong. Nick Offerman will get an Emmy, and Fenton, just watch it. Everyone listening, just watch episode 3. Do yourself the favor.
Yeah, so you don't have to continue. You do not have to continue with this show, but episode 3 is a must watch.
I know we've got to move on, but I just want to say I love a zombie movie when the zombie thing is happening, when they're taking over. Always when a plane crashes out of the sky, I'm like, yes, I'm there. It's like, because that's what always happens, right? The zombies arrive, take over, and planes fall from the sky, and
there's one of those. There's one of those in this one, and I just have to shout out to my friend Carolyn Strauss, who once again is an executive producer of a pivotal piece of I had no idea that she was part of it.
She needs multiple Lifetime Achievement Awards. Like she's nailed it again and again, and like Game of Thrones. But what else?
Sopranos.
Well, wait a minute, hold on.
Chernobyl.
Yeah. I just want to say, Fenton, I want you to, you don't have to watch the series, but you have to give episode 3. You just have to, it's just fantastic.
Okay, putting my foot down, moving on. Number 6, James.
Number 6.
Oh, is that me?
It is.
Oh, yeah, I forgot I thought we'd finished the show. I was ready to go. I was finished. Anyway, Poker Face on Peacock, which I want to say that Peacock is really stepping up to the plate and is becoming a major player in the streaming wars. This is Natasha Lyonne, who we love. She's a WoW celebrity from way, way back. This is her tour de force. This is her Emmy win for sure. She's absolutely spectacular. She plays a Columbo like detective. She has a bullshit detector. She works as in a Vegas casino. She's a waitress, but she has this bullshit detector where she has a sixth sense where she can tell if someone is lying. She just knows. It's a superpower. Okay. And the first episode is Adrian Brody as the casino owner's son, and Benjamin Brett, who is the casino security. And Natasha Lyonne, her best friend, is a fellow waitress, and she is murdered. And she goes to Adrian Brody she has some clues as to what's really going on, and she starts to fall into this mystery of who killed her best friend at work. And I'm going to give the spoiler because it's just the first episode. When she figures it out, she has to go on the run, okay? Because the studio boss is after her for figuring this out. So she's on the run. So basically the show is Columbo meets The Fugitive, right? Where Benjamin Bratt there's someone searching for, it's like the Incredible Hulk. Remember how David Banner was accused for a crime he did not commit and has to go on the run. It's Columbo meets these great 70s shows. And the cast is spectacular. When I tell you that Adrian Brody, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Chloe Sevigny, of course, Natasha's best friend in real life, Judith Light, Ellen Barkin,
That's
Clea
an amazing
Duvall.
cast. Amazing cast.
Great cast. Every week she has to solve a murder while she's on the run. Like I said, Natasha is absolutely fascinating. Has she been on Drag Race? Have you had her as a judge on Drag Race?
Yes, and she was also she was portrayed. I think someone did her in a Snatch Game as well.
Oh, that's funny. Yes.
Quick question: is it indeed set in the 1970s?
No, well, I don't think so. Maybe.
Someone said it was set in the past because that way they don't have to deal with like cell phones and stuff. Am I wrong about that?
That would make sense because she has a great 70s outfit and her car is very 70s. So I guess maybe it is the 1970s. Oh, and I guess everybody's outfits are, I didn't even put it together. I thought
you're
it was
such
just
an eclectic dresser, James, that to you it's just like they have fashion.
It is. I thought everyone was just being a hipster wearing 70s thrift store clothes. That's hysterical. Okay, yes.
Because the private detective, the private eye genre is kind of ruined a lot by CSI and cell phones and cameras now. So I love that they went back and can sort of tell those stories.
It is. But when I say that if you're a Columbo fan, Tom, that this is because she is absolutely, she's doing a Columbo impersonation. She's so funny.
And then Rue has always been a fan of, hasn't he, of those 70s like detective shows. And it's been a genre that's sort of neglected. I suppose partly because that sort of PI thing has basically gone. You know, it is a
Columbo's hold up.
But if you like Murder, She Wrote, if you like Columbo, if you like Charlie's Angels, if you like any of those things,
Charlie's Angels, exactly.
Yeah,
awesome. All right, that is streaming on Peacock. Number 5.
I'm
going to go back to the Oscar nominations. Nominated for Best Song this year, it's an entry from India. It is a movie called RRR. That's 3 R's. And oh my God, this movie should have been nominated for Best Feature Film, whether foreign or whatever. It is so stunning. It is the most expensive movie ever made in India, a budget of only $72 million. And when you watch this 3-hour epic, you just cannot, it is the most visual. I'm someone who doesn't really like violence in movies, but the violence in it is so balletic. It's so not Tarantino, because Tarantino is really violent, but it is cartoony, you know, Tarantino. But this is like violence as ballet, and the set pieces are just so stunning. Anyway, the story, it's set in Raj, India. So the British are the evil, evil, evil people. And it's the story of 2 people who meet and form a very intense platonic bond, and they don't unite. They sort of unite to fight the Raj, but they're actually on different missions, and they're keeping secrets from each other. So they unite, then they fight, then they unite again. It's a sprawling, epic, visual extravaganza, and it's just so good. I mean, Tom, you were talking about, you know, what's so good about streaming is that it's been able to break the tyranny of the narrative. And I feel that that's, you know, a problem with a lot of the Oscar movies this year, is that they're just laboring under this narrative form and they just can't get rid of it. Well, RRR is just blows it all to smithereens. There's graphics in the middle of it. There's musical numbers all over the place. It's neither fish nor fowl, but just incredibly beautiful and satisfying. And the story, you know, the story is the story, but essentially the evil Raj, the viceroy, I guess, his wife decides she wants a little daughter from the village because she paints henna on the hands, and they basically just take her away from her family. And this is the sort of inciting incident that leads these 2 to begin the fight that will ultimately lead to the end of the British Empire in India. And the British are so evil. I mean, just
I mean, you all are. I mean, there's just no way around it.
I just had to give you that, James. It's true. And the song Natu Natu, it actually won the Golden Globes, won best original song at the Golden Globes, and it is this unbelievable. They go to this sort of empire party, which is all posh and and then they do this dance number that is just like epic on top of epic on top of epic. It's really good. And funny enough, even though a lot of the film was filmed in India, this particular sequence was filmed in Kyiv, in front of a palace in the Ukraine, in Kyiv. But if you haven't seen it, do check it out. It's actually streaming on Netflix, which is kind of funny because I just get all these like emails about Academy this, Academy that from Netflix, and I don't think I've ever gotten one email from them about RRR. But it's really,
you say it's 3 hours though. That does sound like it's a commitment.
It is a commitment, but no more than watching the Last of Us, really. Oh, okay, there you go. I can't recommend enough. Oh, wait, we'll take a quick break. Brand new on Wow Presents Plus, Carrie Kaz, all 8 episodes available to binge. She, of course, is the standout queen from Drag Race season 14.
The Carrie Colby on Carrie Cares.
That's exactly right. Thank you. And she says secrets to living her best life. Sounds unmissable. When we come back, oh, yeah, wait, Blake, you got a question, right?
I do. When's the next leap year?
When is the next? What is a leap year? Could you remind me?
Leap year is every 4 years. There is an extra day in February. There's 29 days instead of 28.
Okay. Mark your calendars. It is. We'll have the answer right after the break here on the Wow Report.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
Welcome back to the Wow Report. Fenton here with James and Tom and Blake with the answer to a teasing question.
Yep. When's the next leap year, guys?
Well, I know this. It's 2067.
It's 2024 because it has to be divisible by 4.
Okay.
That's right, Tom. It's next year. Mark your calendars.
Can I just remind you guys, I was the smartest person in my grammar school. Anything but like before 6th grade, up in here.
Wait a minute. You haven't had a moment since grammar school?
That was before the accident.
I peaked in 6th grade. Is that a big deal?
Well, amazing that you remember anything from that time. All right. We've reached number 4.
Number 4.
This is often our Rest in Perfection segment, and it will be again this week. Barrett Strong. Does the name ring a bell? You may not know his name, but you remember his music. Barrett Strong had Motown's first #1 hit, a little song called Money. That's What I Want. The best things in life are free, which went on to be not only the first Motown hit, the Beatles recorded it. You know, what was that new wave band?
The Flying Lizards. That's how I know the song.
I learned it there first too. Just an epic song, so raw and real.
Yeah, I didn't know the Beatles did a Flying Lizards cover.
Well, sort of. And then there was some controversy because he wanted writing credit on it and didn't get it. And Barry Gordy wrote the song, but he stayed at Motown. He didn't have much more success as a solo artist, but he produced and wrote some songs you may have heard of. I Heard It Through the Grapevine.
Oh, wow.
From Marvin Gaye. A lot of the stuff for the Temptations. I Can't Get Next to You, which is one of the best songs. I can't get next to you, babe. I can't get next to you. I Wish It Would Rain, which is one of the most beautiful songs. How about Just My Imagination, Running Away With Me?
Just My Imagination.
How about a song called Papa Was a Rolling Stone? Ever heard of it?
Papa was a Rolling Stone.
Nah. Psychedelic Shack. I mean, it goes on and on. I'm just barely
tipping. Love Shack? I don't know that one.
But think about the impact those songs, how many times you've heard those songs, danced to those songs, heard them covered. And the last one, which is really an amazing song, is the song War. That was ultimately recorded by Edward Starr.
What is it good for? Absolutely nothing.
Say it again. He had lost a friend in Vietnam, and he wrote that song, which was later recorded by Bruce Springsteen.
Oh my God.
Anyway, Barrett Strong, not giving enough time or running out of time, but, you know, go to your Spotify's and listen to those songs, written, direct, produced, and in some cases performed by Barrett Strong. And
so he produced them, but he also wrote them, right? That's
yes.
And Money too, which he didn't get a writing credit for, but he wrote it.
Yes,
well,
he says
like
he
you
created
don't
the
need
piano riff
money
at the
if
beginning.
you've got all those other songs. Sounds like he did okay for himself.
I think
Rest
so. He was
in perfection, Barrett Strong. Number 3, James.
Number 3.
Number 3, very quickly, I want to just talk about the State of the State on SNL, season 48. I have been watching this season, it's sort of a rebuilding season. They're trying to get their foothold again after they lost Cecily Strong, A.D. Bryant, Kate McKinnon, Pete Davidson, Kyle Mooney, and Melissa Villaseñor last season. They're trying to see who their big powerhouse performers are right now. And they're trying to make Mikey Day, Bowen Yang, and Heidi Gardner, and a little bit Chloe Fineman too. But I don't know that any of them really have become the powerhouses. Bowen Yang, of course, we all know he's bound to be the breakout star, but he still hasn't gone beyond doing these like quirky gay roles that like they're funny, but they haven't really taken like. He's funnier outside of SNL than he's actually been on SNL. They've had some amazing guests this season: Aubrey Plaza, Michael B. King, Austin Butler, Keke Palmer, Steve Martin, and Jack Harlow. But they also had the episode with Dave Chappelle, and so it's sort of been a mixed bag a little bit. I do want to say that Sarah Sherman, who is their quirky I don't know. She's a little too quirky for the show. Do you love Sarah P? I mean,
she's kind of annoying, but then sometimes I think she's funny on the Weekend Update with Colin.
Yeah. I do want to say the Andrew Dismukes, who they're trying to make into a huge star. There's something really unlikable about him, and I can't put my finger on it. He's done some Weekend Updates where he's sort of tried to be himself, and the more he's himself and not characters, there's just something about him that's a little creepy. I don't know. There is Devin Walker, who is he's a black kid. He's got a goofy smile, and he's got this BDE, this big dick energy that reminds you of Pete Davidson. He, I think, is a breakout, but he hasn't really had much to do, but he's really something. Does anyone else been watching this season?
I have. When you were away, we talked about, I thought the Aubrey Plaza episode was exceptional.
Yes.
And I thought, I watched it just in clips. Sometimes when you watch them in clips, you have a different experience when you watch them on the air. And I thought it was the gayest show in television that week.
Yeah.
You know, and that's when they did the Megan doll and all that kind of stuff. So I see a lot of potential. I feel it's a rebuilding year. I'm warming up to the cast. I think Bowen, especially in the Aubrey Plaza episode, you're right. He's playing gay characters, but he's kind of dominating. And I'm enjoying watching.
He really is. I do I think that I wish that Colin Jost and Michael Che, who do so good on the Weekend Updates, they don't do anything else on the show. They're writers and they do that, but they don't let them do characters. And I wish they would bring out Michael Che to do more characters, because they really are. They're the smartest, funniest people on the show. They're so good.
Fun idea.
I love them
both. Listening.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to number 2.
Number 2.
Moonage Daydream. This is a documentary about David Bowie, made by Brett Morgan, who did The Kid Stays in the Picture, Cobain, Montage of Heck, Jane, the Jane Goodall doc about the monkeys and the gorillas. Thank you, the gorillas. And James, have you seen it?
I was there in the theater when there was the trailer, and everyone went bananas for the trailer. And then I started seeing Courtney Love, a lot of people going on social media raving about this. But then when it came out, it got a resounding thud from the critics and the people on social media who hated it. I'm interested to see where you're going with this.
Well, thank you, because I'd sort of put off watching it because growing up, Bowie was such an influential figure. It's sometimes hard to watch something about someone with whom you feel a sense of ownership, a ridiculous idea, but like, you're like, I don't want to see someone else's idea of Bowie. And Nolan and I were like struggling to watch some movie, and I was like, let's watch this instead. Because I was like, you need to know about David Bowie. And I thought that this would like educate him about David Bowie. And it sort of does. I mean, it's amazing archive. And Bowie, as we know, was the sort of prince of a million different looks, kind of Gaga way before Gaga in terms of new identities and new looks. The only thing is,
how can you say that without mentioning Madonna, though? How can you go straight
all right,
from Bowie
okay,
to Gaga?
you're right. But Bowie comes first, then Madonna, then Gaga, right? So Bowie is the original multi-look person, right? That's the... Anyway, so I would have expected, if I were making a film, which I didn't, so maybe I'm just resentful, I would have expected something that sort of gives you some narrative insight or breaks down these different phases, or like what was motivating the Thin White Duke? What was motivating Ziggy Stardust? How did it all fit into the culture? Instead, and it's visually very satisfying, instead it is, the New York Times said, it's kind of more like a seance than an actual documentary or a biography. Everything sort of mashed together, and it's unquestionably a tour de force of editing, but maddeningly, there's no real narrative, and then he did this, and then he did that, and so it's all this sort of great melange of richness and stuff. And I suppose in a way, like the title says, it is kind of like a Moonage Daydream, which of course was one of Bowie's Ziggy Stardust.
Well, it's so interesting because I remember one time having a conversation with you about doing like a Lee Bowery documentary, and you had said that the problem with it is it just becomes he did this, he had this look, he had that look, he had this look, he had that look, and then he died. And there's no real forward momentum to the narrative. There's no narrative arc. And do you think that there are just people whose lives are he did this, he did that, he did this, and then he died?
Well, maybe there are, but I do think in Bowie's case, you know, he advanced this idea of bisexuality at a time when it was terribly forbidden. He sort of rode this frisson in society of like, I'm sort of decadent and daring and other at a time. I mean, he almost like, yes, he actually glamorized the idea of homosexuality in a way that no one had really. I mean, Jean Genet had done it.
Was it performative is what I always go back to with that.
Indeed. But James, you know, we live in performative times, you know.
and what was performative then or phase could be a non-binary, a fluid, you know, like
true.
You know, true. We're all it's all for the taking.
Well, okay, interesting with Bowie though too, because I was just going to go back with if sometimes the arc isn't there for a story, then what you do with a biography or a biodoc is you zoom in on a particular moment in their life, and that's what you make it about. And a few years ago, there was a documentary about Bowie, if you recall, in which it zoomed in on Bowie's first trip to America, and that was the whole documentary. But they had a problem because they didn't have any rights to the songs, so it was a Bowie documentary without any Bowie songs, and that was the problem. But do you think that it would have been interesting if they had done a documentary about just that, which you were talking about, his gay influence and all that?
Well, it's funny you say that, because actually I think they could have done the phases of Bowie, and I think without any of the music, that would have been better. Because I actually think if you're handicapped or your hands tied and you can't have the music, then that whole shorthand of all that he was trying to conjure with, and you're obliged to explain it and show how it related to what was going on socially. And I think that would have actually been perhaps more successful. But look,
I think you're right. Yeah.
I love Bowie. And so I was just happy to bathe in 2 hours of, because he was a visualist beyond, you know, every moment was a sort of tour de force. So it's more
I wonder then if the litmus test is what was Nolan's reaction.
Nolan got halfway through and then was like, I'm going to bed.
And it was 2 in the afternoon. That's the weird thing.
So I'm afraid that my anticipation of turning Nolan onto Bowie.
Isn't that weren't you a little heartbroken by that?
I recognized it was a fail and that I'd been, you know. Let's take a break. House of Love is the exclusive drink of RuPaul's Drag Race, just in time for your season 15 viewing parties. And we have party boxes, the All-Star, the Squirrel Friend, the Variety Box, Hall of Fame, all containing different combinations of 4 delicious cocktails. and 2 mouth-watering mocktails. You just go to houseoflovecocktails.com and order them up. One more break, and when we come back, the number one thing this week that made us go, wow.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
And welcome back. We've been counting down the top 10 things that made us go wow this week. I'm Fenton here with Tom and James, and of course Blake, and we've reached number one.
Number one.
Number one, we're going to talk about 2 different people. Celebrities. We're of the age where celebrities from our youth, from our past, who meant so much to us, are passing one after another. I wanted to take a moment to say rest in perfection to Cindy Williams, Shirley of Laverne and Shirley. It's hard to explain to somebody who wasn't alive in the 70s how important Laverne and Shirley was, how much joy they brought to the world. They were the new Lucy and Ethel in the 70s. They there was a warmth to their show. They were blue collar. They were outside. That theme song, "Make All Our Dreams Come True," where they're beer workers, bottlers.
Schlemazel, Haas and Pfeffer Incorporated. We're
Yes.
gonna do it.
And there's that image where they put one of their working gloves on a bottle as it flings through the plant, and they're just sitting there looking at "Make All Our Dreams Come True." I posted about Cindy, and they used to love to drink Pepsi and milk. That was one of the gags on the show. But also, Shirley had a Boo Boo Kitty, which was her stuffed kitty whenever things went really wrong. And all I could think of
Carmine, the big ragu.
Yes. Cindy and Laverne at the time, Cindy and Penny Marshall at the time, were infamous for being competitive. There were stories about how they would take the script and count the lines, but they made a real impact. I think they were friends later in life. Cindy Williams also married Bill Hudson, who first was married to Goldie Hawn and is the father of Oliver and Kate Hudson, who's very estranged from the Goldie Hawn family, but had raised another family with Cindy Williams. So to her children and those she leaves behind, and to our childhood, rest in perfection.
It's very sad, because I was just that day mourning the loss of Lisa Loring, who played Wednesday Addams on the Addams Family, and that to me was so devastating, because I remember when you were growing up, you were either a Munsters person or an Addams Family person, and those 2 shows were on at the same time, just like Bewitched and I Dream of Jeannie were on at the same time. So it was like dueling monsters. You had to figure out which one you were going to do. So when they said that Lisa Loring had died, that was like a wound to my heart. And then just as the news said a beloved TV icon has passed, and I thought they were going to do Lisa Loring, and they said Cindy Williams, and just the idea that Cindy Williams is gone, and it's that moment when you realize that everybody from Mary Tyler Moore is gone, everybody from I Love Lucy is gone, and now almost everybody from Laverne and Shirley is, Lenny is still around. Yeah, Lenny.
Yes.
Yeah, but just the fact that there is no more Laverne and Shirley, it's so she was such a part of my childhood. I can't imagine no more Laverne and Shirley. I liked it more than the Happy Days.
Yep, for sure. It was definitely the gay Happy Days. You know what I'm saying? It was because it was girls.
Because there was another gay boy at my school, Matthew Cox. Hi, Matt. And he and I would bond over our love of soap and Laverne and Shirley. And that's how we didn't say we were gay, but we were just Laverne and Shirley fans. Wink, wink.
And soap, that's an excellent outing mechanism back then.
Well, that's all we got time for this week. Thanks for tuning into the Wow Report on Radio Andy, Sirius XM. Previous episodes, you can get them on our YouTube channel, Wow Presents. You can not only hear us, you can see us, and there's little bits and pieces that we had to cut out, either for decency's sake or for time or what have you. Same time, same place next week. Until then, go out and do something that makes the world go
wow.